My name is Kate. I'm 32 years old, born and raised in a small town outside Austin, Texas. And for as long as I can remember, I've lived in someone else's spotlight. That someone? My older sister, Anna. 3 years my senior, and about 3 light years ahead in our parents' eyes. She wasn't just their daughter, she was their dream. Straight A student. Well, close enough. Popular. Always the center of attention at church, school, family events, you name it. Anna had a way of charming everyone. Teachers, neighbors, even the checkout lady at the grocery store. She was the kind of person who got away with everything simply by flashing a smile. And me? I was the other one. Not the golden girl. Not the troublemaker. Just the responsible one. The quiet one. The invisible one. Being responsible in my family was just a polite way of saying, we're going to dump all the expectations on you and give you none of the praise. It started early. For Anna's 10th birthday, our backyard was transformed into a carnival. There were balloons, ponies, a bounce house, and a magician. I still remember watching from the kitchen window as she opened present after present under a string of fairy lights while everyone clapped like she was a celebrity. When my 10th birthday rolled around, I got a grocery store cake, a half-deflated happy birthday banner, and 2 friends sitting at our dining table eating pepperoni pizza. My mom said, "Well, you don't like big crowds anyway." I did. I just never got invited to them. And this wasn't a one-time thing. It became a pattern, a lifestyle. Christmas? Anna got the Barbie dream house, straight from the commercial. I got the knockoff version with one missing wall and no elevator. It's the same thing, my mom insisted. Be grateful. And I was. But somewhere deep down, I always noticed that Anna's gratitude was never required. She didn't have to say thank you. She didn't have to earn anything. Her existence was enough. I thought things might shift when we got older. I worked hard in high school, I mean really hard. I took every honors and AP class they offered, stayed up nights studying, joined yearbook, coding club, and even did tutoring for younger kids. I had a plan. I wanted to go to college, get a job in tech, and build something of my own. Anna, meanwhile, waltzed through high school with a 3.2 GPA and a communications major in mind. Nothing against that, but what mattered was how differently our efforts were treated. When she got into her dream out-of-state college, my parents paid for everything. Tuition, dorm, a car, and even monthly spending money. We just want her to focus on school, my mom said. I figured, naively, that they'd support me the same way. Nope. When I told them I'd been accepted to a local university and planned to live at home to save money, my mom looked at me like I'd insulted her cooking. If you're staying here, you'll need to contribute, she said. Anna got a full ride from us because she earned it. You need to learn responsibility. Earned it? I was 18, starting college, working part-time, and they wanted $400 a month in rent plus utilities, plus groceries, plus everything else. And I paid it. I brown-bagged every lunch. I skipped meals. I walked in the Texas heat because I couldn't afford to fix my car's AC. Meanwhile, Anna was calling to complain about her dorm's air conditioning being a little warm. I handed my parents $400 every month while they handed Anna money to make sure she didn't struggle. But this was just the beginning. For years of sacrifice. For years of sleepless nights, double shifts, and ramen noodles. While most students partied on weekends, I was behind the register at the bookstore or at home teaching myself to code because I couldn't afford the expensive software licenses or tutoring classes. And still, I graduated. Not just graduated. I finished with a 3.9 GPA in computer science. One of the hardest majors on campus. There was no party, no balloons, no family photos. Just a quiet dinner at home with my parents. My mom reheated lasagna and said, "Well, we don't want to make a fuss." I forced a smile. Anna had graduated 2 years earlier with a 3.2 in communications. My parents threw her a full-blown event, rented a banquet hall, hired a DJ, catered dinner, and even printed matching t-shirts for the family. "We're so proud of our girl," my dad had said in his speech, misty-eyed, as Anna beamed and accepted envelopes full of cash from distant relatives. But when I told them I got a job offer straight out of school, "Oh, that's nice," Mom said, barely looking up from her phone. "Don't forget to forward your mail." That moment stayed with me. It wasn't about money. It wasn't even about parties. It was the message underneath it all. Anna matters. You're just here. They used to call me independent like it was praise. But it wasn't. It was a shield, a tool, a way to justify neglect. Kate's smart. She doesn't need help. Translation: we don't have to care as much. So I did the only thing I could. I stopped expecting anything. I moved out within 6 months of graduating. Found a tiny apartment near my first job, a tech support position at a small startup. The place was barely livable. Cramped kitchen, stained carpet, no washer-dryer. But it was mine. I didn't ask for help. Didn't take a dime from anyone. I bought second-hand furniture, learned to cook with a hot plate, and started saving. It was a hard, lonely, quiet life. But it was also the first time I felt like I had a voice. Meanwhile, Anna? She married Josh, a man my parents adored because he made Anna laugh, even though he hadn't held a steady job in 3 years. They moved into a modest apartment that my parents helped them furnish. When their car broke down, my dad co-signed a new lease. When they had their first child, my mom practically moved in to babysit. By the time baby number 3 arrived, my parents were babysitting every weekend, paying for groceries, and even covering rent until things got better. I watched all of this unfold from the sidelines. Every act of generosity, every bailout. And yet, they never asked how I was doing. No, how's work? No, need help with anything? I'd call occasionally, only to hear Anna's voice in the background talking about how hard motherhood was. Mom always said the same thing. She's got her hands full. You'll understand one day. But I didn't want to. Not like this. Not at the cost of becoming invisible. So I stopped calling. I had been renting that tiny apartment for nearly 7 years. It was never meant to be permanent. It was cramped, overpriced, and sandwiched between noisy neighbors and a laundromat that never closed. But I stayed. Because staying meant peace from expectation, from obligation from them. But eventually, I started dreaming again. It started small, scrolling Zillow late at night. Just looking. Just wondering. What if I had a porch? A garden? A sunroom with morning light? I'd saved for years, carefully, quietly. No vacations. No impulse purchases. I cooked my meals, fixed what broke, and socked away every bonus and refund check like it was sacred. And one day, I realized I could actually do this. I could buy a house. A real one. Not a palace, not a statement. Just something that was mine, fully and finally. But I knew that if I breathed even a word of this to my family, it wouldn't stay mine for long. They'd twist it. Take it. Turn my milestone into a group project? So I kept quiet. I didn't tell anyone. Not Anna. Not my mom. Not even my coworkers, or so I thought. Enter Lisa. Lisa was the office gossip with a radar for anything personal. I'd made the mistake of casually mentioning I was looking at a few listings over lunch. 3 days later, my mother called. Her voice was syrupy sweet, the kind she only used when she was about to steamroll you. Kate, honey, why didn't you tell us you're looking for a house? We have so many ideas. I blinked at the phone, already dreading what came next. I mean, Anna and I were talking, and we think it would be so smart for you to get something spacious. You know, something with at least 4 bedrooms. 4 bedrooms. 4 what? I asked, already knowing the answer. Well, for the kids, obviously. And Anna and Josh. And of course, we'd want to stay over from time to time. It'd be nice to have family dinners, birthdays, maybe even holidays at your place now. Wouldn't that be lovely? I nearly dropped the phone. I was buying a house. For myself. And they'd already turned it into a vacation compound. I mumbled something vague and hung up. I told myself maybe it was a one-time overstep. A little excitement. But then the flood began. Every day, I got texts from my mom and Anna. Links to listings. Long, gushing descriptions. 5 bedrooms, perfect for everyone. Look, this one has a finished basement. Josh could finally have a man cave. The kids would love the backyard pool. There's a guest suite for us. How convenient. They weren't even pretending it was for me. It was like I'd become their real estate sponsor, the family's chance at upgrading without paying a dime. They were designing their dream house with my money and calling it love. At first, I tried to be polite. I'm actually looking for something smaller, I wrote. I really don't need all that space. They ignored it. The text continued. The calls got longer. One day Anna even said, I hope you're being serious about keeping it close to us. It'll make carpooling so much easier. Carpooling. I don't have kids. I don't have a husband. But I was being volunteered to live within walking distance so I could chauffeur hers. That's when I stopped replying altogether. I muted the family group chat, blocked notifications, and quietly got back to searching on my own. No more talking. No more explaining. Just action. And after a few weeks of open houses, paperwork, and more Zillow scrolling than I care to admit, I found it. A small, two-bedroom cottage on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just peace. A cozy porch with wind chimes. A sunlit kitchen with checkered tile. A backyard perfect for a garden and a chair swing. I stepped inside and immediately knew, this is mine. I put in an offer that afternoon, and within 72 hours, it was accepted. And for the first time in my life, I didn't tell a soul. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could get away with it. That I could quietly close on the house, move in, and let them find out months later through some distant cousin's Facebook post. I thought they'd be upset, sure, but they'd have no choice but to accept it once everything was already said and done. But then came the dinner invitation. Next Saturday, 6 o'clock sharp, my mom said over the phone, her voice sugary and commanding all at once. Don't be late again. I knew what it was. I knew exactly what they had planned. They were going to pitch the final house. The one they decided was perfect. Probably with a printed flyer. Maybe even floor plans. Part of me wanted to fake a migraine and skip the whole circus. But another part wanted to look them in the eye when I dropped the truth. So I showed up, right on time. Anna's kids were already tearing around the living room, screaming and chasing each other with foam swords. Josh was slouched on the couch with his feet on the coffee table, glued to the TV. My mom was in the kitchen barking instructions, and my dad was in the garage fixing something, which probably meant pretending not to hear the chaos inside. As I walked in, my mom glanced at the clock. Oh good, she said. You're on time for once. We sat down to dinner. Lasagna, garlic bread, and passive aggression. Small talk floated around the table like smoke. Gas prices. Anna's stress. Josh's latest job search. And then, just as I was finishing my salad, it happened. My mom cleared her throat, the way she always did when she wanted the room's attention. Kate, she said, with that stage smile she wore at PDA meetings. We've been thinking, we found the perfect house for you. I didn't even flinch. Oh, I said, keeping my voice steady. It's amazing, Anna jumped in. 5 bedrooms, huge yard, guest suite, and it's only a few blocks from us. The kids could finally have space, and Josh could have his own office. It's perfect for everyone, Mom cut in. You wouldn't believe how good the school district is. And imagine hosting holidays here. We could all just spread out. Spread out. In my house. That was the final straw. I set down my fork, looked up, and said clearly, actually, I already bought a house. Silence. For a full 10 seconds, the only sound was the hum of the fridge. My mother blinked. Anna's jaw dropped. Even Josh looked up from his plate. What? My mom said, her voice suddenly sharp. I bought a house, I repeated. A small 2-bedroom cottage. Just outside the city. It's done. I move in next week. Anna looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. A cottage, she said. How are we supposed to fit in a cottage? You're not, I said calmly. Because it's not for you. It's for me. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. My mom's face flushed red. Kate, how could you make such a big decision without talking to us? We've been helping you plan. No, I cut in. You've been helping yourselves. Planning your dream house. With my money, my space, my life. Anna's voice cracked. But we need this, Kate. Do you know what it's like living with 3 kids in 2 bedrooms? We're drowning. I took a breath. I'm sorry you're struggling. But that's not my responsibility. I've worked hard for years on my own. I'm not throwing that away so Josh can have an office and your kids can have a bigger playroom. That's when my dad finally spoke, slamming his fist onto the table. You're being selfish, Kate. Family takes care of each other. What the hell is wrong with you? I stood up. I am taking care of myself, for once. And if that makes me selfish to you, then so be it. Chaos erupted. Anna started crying. My mom yelled that she raised me better. My dad muttered something about being ashamed. And Josh, he just kept eating, like he wasn't a grown man mooching off his sister-in-law's imaginary mortgage. I grabbed my purse, turned toward the door. Mom chased after me. You can't just walk away from your family like this. I turned around. Watch me. And then I walked out. The texts started that night. The first was from Anna. A picture of her 3 kids huddled on their old couch. Toys piled everywhere, with the caption, "Look how cramped we are. Do you really think this is fair to Emily and Mason?" I stared at it for a full minute. Fair? What part of my entire life had been fair? I didn't reply. The next morning, I woke up to 5 missed calls from my mom and a string of guilt-laced messages from Anna. You always only think about yourself. Mom couldn't sleep last night. She's so upset. You've changed. This isn't the sister I grew up with. No, it wasn't Dot. The sister she grew up with had no voice, no boundaries, no spine. That version of me was gone. By lunchtime, my mom had joined the warpath. We're all disappointed in you. You need to reconsider. It's not too late to sell that little cottage and find something more suitable for the family. The family, Dot. Not my family, Dot. Their definition of it, which meant serving Anna's needs at all costs. I muted them both. But then came the voicemails. My mom's voice, breaking with performative grief. You don't know what you're doing to your sister. She's struggling, Kate. And so are the kids. Don't make us the enemy. Please. My dad's voice, rough with anger. I hope you're happy. You've torn this family apart. Even my aunt, who I hadn't spoken to in years, called Dot. Sweetheart, can't you help them just a little? Anna's your sister. Family comes first. I laughed, Dot. This woman didn't show up to my graduation. Had never sent me a birthday card. But now she was a champion of sisterly love? No thanks. And then, it went public. Anna posted a picture of her kids squeezed together on a bunk bed with the caption, all they want is a little space to grow. But I guess some people think family isn't worth helping anymore. The comments were flooded with sympathy. You're such a good mom. Whoever let you down doesn't deserve you. Some people are just cold-hearted. I couldn't respond. Not without looking petty. Not without starting another war. So I did the only thing I could. I blocked Anna, Dot. Blocked my mom, Dot. Blocked my dad, Dot. Blocked every extended relative who just wanted to help. I even blocked Lisa from work, the gossip queen who probably started this whole chain reaction. But the worst part? It wasn't over. Not even close. A few weeks passed. No calls. No messages. No sudden visits. I thought foolishly that maybe it was over, Dot. That they'd finally accepted it. That I'd drawn my line in the sand, and they knew better than to cross it. I was wrong. It was a Saturday. I'd spent the morning doing errands, groceries, post office, a quick stop at Target. Just a normal day. I pulled into my driveway, humming to myself, ready to enjoy a quiet afternoon. And then I saw it. Anna's SUV, parked right in front of my house. My stomach dropped. I rushed to the front door, fumbling with my keys. But before I could even turn the knob, I heard it. Voices. Inside. I froze. For one terrifying second, I thought I was being robbed. Then I recognized the chaos. Anna's kids yelling. Josh laughing. Furniture dragging across the floor. I unlocked the door and walked in. And there they were. In my house. Emily and Mason were sprawled across my living room floor, surrounded by toys that weren't theirs. Zach was toddling around with one of my throw pillows in his mouth. Josh was in the kitchen, casually raiding my fridge like he lived there. And Anna? She was in the sunroom, rearranging my furniture. I couldn't speak. What the hell is going on? I finally choked out. Anna looked up, completely unfazed. Oh hey, Kate. We figured it'd be easier to just move in while you were out. I stared at her. Move in. She nodded, like it was no big deal. Mom gave us the key. She said it'd be fine. I looked over at the kitchen counter, and there it was. The spare key I'd left out when Mom visited. My fists clenched. Josh, mouthful of sandwich, chimed in. You're single, Kate. You don't need all this space. This place is perfect for a family. My jaw tightened. Get out. Anna scoffed. Don't be dramatic. We've already started settling in. The kids love it here. You should have listened to us. The house could have been even better, but this will do. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I pulled out my phone, calmly opened the keypad, and dialed 911. Anna's face paled. You're not serious. Watch me. Josh started stammering. Come on, Kate. We're family. You're really calling the cops on your own sister. I absolutely am. When the dispatcher answered, I said clearly, my sister and her family broke into my home. They're refusing to leave. By the time the officers arrived, my hands were shaking not with fear, but with fury. Anna and Josh tried to spin it. She said we could stay. She wasn't using all the space anyway. We're family. The police didn't care. They told them, in no uncertain terms, that this was trespassing. That using a stolen spare key was still unauthorized entry. Anna started crying, of course. Josh muttered something about me being cold. I said nothing. I watched as they packed their things, including the snacks they'd taken from my pantry, and shuffled out like scolded children. One of the officers pulled me aside and asked if I wanted to press charges. I paused, and for a moment, I really considered it. But instead, I said, "Not if they stay gone." He nodded. "We'll file a report. Let us know if they come back." After they left, I locked the door. Then I leaned against it and slid to the floor. My house no longer felt like a sanctuary. It felt violated. Dirty. Used. The next morning, I called a locksmith and had every lock changed. Then I called my lawyer. A cease and desist letter was drafted and sent to Anna, Josh, and my mother. It detailed their actions. It stated that any further attempts to contact me or step onto my property would result in legal consequences. No more warnings. No more talks. This wasn't a family matter anymore. This was war. After the cease and desist letters were sent, I expected backlash. I expected the calls, the threats, the drama. What I didn't expect was the silence. No texts. No voicemails. No Facebook tantrums. Just nothing. For the first time in years, they were quiet. At first, it felt suspicious, like the calm before another storm. But as days turned into weeks, I realized something incredible. They were scared. I had finally become someone they couldn't control. But it came at a price. The house didn't feel like home anymore. Every room reminded me of the invasion. Every creak of the floor made me check the windows. I kept wondering what they were planning next, if the silence was just another manipulation. So I took steps. I installed security cameras, front and back. Got motion sensors. Floodlights. I even adopted a dog from a local shelter, a sweet but loud mutt named Jasper, who barked like thunder anytime someone stepped near the porch. My house was now a fortress. And I was done hiding. I changed my number. Again. Updated all my privacy settings. Deleted every relative who had ever liked one of Anna's posts guilt-tripping me. I scrubbed my life clean. And in that blank space, I finally started living. I turned the second bedroom into an art studio, something I never thought I'd allow myself to have. I planted lavender in the backyard. The fourth try finally took. I started hosting dinners for friends, the kind who asked about me, not what I could do for them. I stopped apologizing. Stopped explaining. Stopped pretending that being the responsible one meant sacrificing myself for everyone else's chaos. One night, while watering the garden, I looked around and realized I wasn't afraid anymore. This was my home. This was my peace. And no one was ever taking that from me again.